My name is Salman Hamid, and I'm Assistant Professor of Integrated Science and Humanities at Hampshire College.
I'm Kevin Anderson. I teach courses in film and anthropology at the University of Massachusetts, and this is Film Autopsy. Hello, and welcome to a film autopsy of a new film called We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lynn Ramsey, who is a female filmmaker. I believe she's from Scotland. She did an earlier films called Ratcatcher. But another interesting thing about her career, she started off as a cinematographer, and this film is so stylized with its visuals. So I think her background in cinematography really comes through with this. First and foremost, this is a tough film. This is a difficult film, and it is very well made. I think the subject matter, on one level, it's kind of hard to approach. It's about a young boy who has a very dark, I wouldn't even say dark side to him, because he is this almost embodiment of darkness. And particularly his relationship with his mother, played by Tilda Swinton.
Just a boy, just a sweet little boy.
So the three actors in the film, Tilda Swinton, John C. Reilly, and Ezra Miller, are the three key actors in the film. All do an excellent job with their performances. It's a compelling story. The story is told somewhat in a nonlinear fashion and raises some very interesting issues. Number one, about parenting and anxiety about parenting. So in that sense, it reminded me a little bit about Eraserhead, but other ways it reminded me of David Lynch. But your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a disturbing film, and I think the combination of a disturbing film and a really well-made film is actually lethal from that perspective. The acting is superb, and Kevin is played in 3 different age groups, and all of the Kevins are really well acted. They're really fantastic. It's hard to say, how do we talk about this? Well, one of the things is, it is non-linear, that is sure, but I think it almost felt like confusing. Not in a bad way, but Tilda Swinton's character, and we know from the movie, and if you've seen the previews also, I don't think you can really get the full story, but it's not the matter of story of this film.
Right.
But you know that Kevin has done something bad, like really exceptionally bad, like, you know, that you don't even want to think about how bad.
Right.
And so Tilda Swinton, throughout the film, she kind of is in a dazed state.
First he cries too much, then he's too quiet. And you see it as some kind of personal vendetta?
You think I'm exaggerating?
Listen, buddy, it's easy to misunderstand when you hear it out of context.
How would I not know the context?
And I think as viewers, we are also put in the same dazed state because we don't have a sense of time, and we don't have a sense of, we don't have chronology.
And the order of things, and I think it's interesting that they play with that.
And the color palette and stuff like that, and so I think it works actually quite well, because it's a disturbing film, and you are disturbed by the lack of linearity in that. But the movie the way it reminded me of was A Clockwork Orange in many ways, where you have this element of real, like, evil. Like, you know, as you were saying, like, it's embodiment of evil.
It's not ambiguous at all.
It's not ambiguous, and you're just nasty simply because you can. And so here is Kevin, who is really nasty to his mom. And again, nasty is a kind of a softer word to the way things happen in there. So it reminded me of sort of like, you know, what do you do? Here is evil. How do you deal with that? What do you do with that?
Well, we like to think, and the philosophers are still, you know, debating this, but we like to think that people are inherently good, and that society is what maybe pulls us or drives us into a direction where we end up doing bad things to other people and whatnot. And this film sets up this, you know, proposal that, well, okay, that might be the case, but what if that's not the case for everyone? What if someone is born evil, is bad, and not in some, you know, exorcist kind of thing, anything metaphysical, but no, in a very realistic sense.
Just a sweet little boy.
So what's, you know, it's a very compelling thing about the film is that the film is saying monsters are real, and when they're human, it's even scarier. And when it's your own child, what do you do?
Exactly. If your own child turns out to be or happens to be a monster, and it's like it's a really hard film to watch from that perspective. And by the way, talking about jarringness, the music. So as we can imagine,
oh, I'm glad you brought this up.
This is a really disturbing film, but the music is kind of like folksy, hillbilly kind of music, and it's completely jarring to hear that.
Well, that reminded me of Lynch. Didn't that remind you a bit of the way the music's used in this film?
And so the combination just works well. But also, the movie is through the protagonist is Tilda Swinton, and what she is going through in the town that she lives in.
Well, thank you for bringing this up, because the film, at different points, and it's non-linear in terms of the story, this horrific event has happened, orchestrated by Kevin. We won't say exactly what it is. So at points in the film, Tilda Swinton's character, it's in the aftermath of that, and she's trying to piece together her life, and she feels guilty. And I think it's a very interesting question. Should she feel guilty for something that her son had done? And it seems as though society, the community at least around her, thinks that she's guilty. She certainly, emotionally, she feels quite drained and dragged down by this. But I think that the character, to some extent, of Kevin is she cannot distance herself from who he is, that he is essentially a part of her, and therefore she feels guilt for what he did.
Anything about the fact that she moved, or the family moved from the city to the suburbs?
Well, yeah, I think there's an interesting trajectory there with her character. It starts in some kind of Mediterranean, almost surreal tomato festival, and she's like covered in tomatoes and tomato sauce, and people in the streets are that way. And then she's in the city, and she's a travel writer, and she's getting married with John C. Reilly, and then she gets pregnant, and they have Kevin, and then they move to the suburbs, and she cuts her hair. So as the film goes, her hair gets shorter and shorter, as her life becomes more and more domestic, and she's not doing what she really wants to do, which is travel and have that sense of adventure. And there's one point in the film when they finally moved from New York to the suburbs, which she did not want to do, but she decorates the walls of her study with maps. And her son comes in and scribbles all over them, and she says, "What are you doing?" And he just goes, "That's silly." And it's so interesting because, her former life was one of actually engaging with the world, experiencing the world, travel, adventure, and to put up wallpaper of the maps of all these foreign places is such a pathetic attempt to try to maintain that sense of adventure.
And it never even when she's there, their house, the one in the suburbs, always seemed squeaky clean, and almost like nothing on, apart from the maps,
sterile.
Nothing really there. It's almost a sterile environment.
Yeah.
So.
Hard to recommend this film. I think it's, if you're looking for a very well-made, compelling film that you would like to sit down with for 2 hours and maybe, talk about with your son, Kevin.
What are all these people watching? People like me.
And it's not a bio, right, for you? It's not.
No, it's not autobiographical.
No, it's not. Okay, all right.
Biographical at all.
But no, this movie is not for everyone, and you should be. Definitely be warned. You should look at the synopsis before
total disclaimer.
You decide to go and see it. It's very well made, but boy, it's not for everyone.
No.
Not even for him.